Thank you so much, Lana, for coming to share this with us today.
Oh, you're very welcome. Hi, everyone. It's so nice to be here. As Miss Elise said, my name is Lana. I'm the Myers Park branch manager, and that role is actually a new role for me. Prior to being about 3 weeks ago, I accepted that position, so very new for me. But before being the branch manager, I actually spent 13 years as a children's librarian. So I do have a lot of experience working with children. And I said in the chat, I also have my own child, a son named Julian, and he is 8 years old. In addition to my library life, I also have a second life outside of the library where I work and volunteer with a nonprofit here in Charlotte. It was called Girls Rock Charlotte, if you're familiar with that. And they just recently rebranded as We Rock Charlotte, wanting to include the boys as well in growing those feminist minds, and empowering young girls is a strong part of our mission. So here in these pictures are the indoor photos from the Rock on 22nd, where the We Rock Charlotte headquarters are located. It's a really sweet, inviting space. And the library does a lot of partnering programs with this organization, which I'll talk about at the end. So before we get started, does anybody have any questions for me about my background, about Girls Rock Charlotte or We Rock Charlotte? Okay, well, you can always just pop them in the chat and we'll do them at the end. So I want to let you know that our objectives today, you're going to know 20 new books that will empower the young girls in your life. And I tried to hit all the ages from pre-K to 11 years old. So I tried to evenly space them out. And at the end, you're going to be able to understand the connection between books and empowering young girls, and how it can be very powerful to make a positive impact on the girls in your life. So let's get started. Before I talk about this fabulous book, I want to tell you, I kind of put it on the side here, the format, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, the year it was published. The 1.8 number that you see, that's the reading level. So if 1.0 would be the first day of first grade, and then 1.9 would be the last day of first grade. So about the majority of the way through first grade would be a 1.8 on the reading level. And then the last is the interest level. So this book, even though a pre-K can't read it, they would be very interested in the content if you're reading it to them. So that interest level is pre-K through second. So let's get started. The first book that we have today is It's a Girl Thing, Smart, Fierce, and Leading the Way by Pri Ferrari. And this is a non-narrative fiction, but it's a really cool book because it talks about all the different things that girls like to do and what can they do. And the picture book is really fun and inspiring, and it talks about all of those questions. And it really gives girls a lot of opportunity to explore all the ways that they can show their strength and their capabilities. It has really great illustrations with spot art, and it's very whimsical. It very definitely appeals to pre-K. And the book is very inspirational, and it even talks about it at the end. It says, you know, this book is meant to inspire the future rule makers and rule breakers. So it definitely is just a great introduction for our list for young people, for all the things that girls can be and do, which of course is anything. All right. And I'm going to make sure to let you guys know all my personal favorites. This is one of my personal favorites. I have a few on the list, as you can imagine. This one is called The Little Girl with the Big Voice. It's a picture book. It's fiction. It was written in 2011. It's a 1.8 reading level, but it appeals to pre-K through first grade. And this is a really vibrant book. And in this book, this is a narrative fiction. And what happens in this book is that there's a girl, she lives in the jungle and she wants to make friends, but she's loud and she keeps scaring all the animals away. And she's trying to decide, should I change myself or should I keep hunting for somebody who's on my level? And I really think that this book is really powerful because I think that we all know, it's all women on this call, that life are kind of taught either outwardly or outrightly or through subliminal messaging to just be kind of quiet and a little bit meek. And what often ends up happening is that they begin being scared to raise their hand in class. And later in life, that translates to they don't feel empowered to stand up for themselves, whether that's in a relationship or a work situation or whatever, or with their friendships. So this is a great book that just talks about it's okay to be exactly who you are. You don't have to change yourself. It's okay to be loud and a girl at the same time. Amazing. Oh, there it goes. All right, The Paper Bag Princess. Now, this one is a classic. Most of you may know this one. It's an older book, 1980. The reading level is a little higher for the 3.8 reading level, but it's still in that same interest level, which is the pre-K through second grade. In this story, we have Princess Elizabeth, and she is slated to marry a prince when dragons attack the castle and they kidnap Ronald. And since the princess's dress is all burned up from the dragon's fire, she has no choice but to wear a paper bag. But there's just no way that she's going to let a dragon interfere with her happily ever after. So she uses her resourcefulness, and she's very funny. And she does all of this in her paper bag dress to find the dragon, to outsmart him, to rescue Ronald. And this book has a lot of wonderful messages like girls can do anything and great clothes don't translate to greatness. What's inside is what really makes a person great. And again, this one is a classic. So if you have not read this one to your daughter, you definitely got to do it. Okay. Uh-oh. I think I went back one. Okay. The Quickest Kid in Clarksville by Pat Miller. This is another fiction book. It's a picture book. It's written in 2016. It's 2.9 reading level. And the interest is the same, pre-K to second, maybe even third. It's very young in the picture style, but you can maybe stretch it. I actually think the story of this book is really cool. So in 1960, Wilma Rudolph, who was an African-American runner, she won 3 gold medals in the Olympic Games. So Pat Miller, the author of this book, what she did was she imagined how that story must have inspired young girls when she was coming back to their home. So what she does is she just she imagines this character that you see here, Alta, and this character lives in Wilma Rudolph's hometown of Clarksville, Tennessee, and they're going to be honoring the runners' victories in an upcoming parade. And so Alta is very excited. She adores Wilma Rudolph, and she considers herself to be Clarksville's fastest kid until she meets Charmaine, who has a brand new pair of running shoes and boasts that she's actually the fastest kid in Clarksville. And so this is a really sweet story. It's very engaging. It's one that even the parents will like. They will enjoy reading this one. And it talks a lot about your dreams as a girl, your determination, and also the power of friendship and how you can empower each other. Okay. All right, our next book is called Stand Tall, Molly Lou Melon, and it's written by Patty Lovell, and it's a picture book. It's a fiction. It was written in 2001. The reading level is 3.5, and the interest level is pre-K through second. In this story, Molly Lou Melon is short and clumsy, and she has buck teeth and a voice that is very grating and sounds like they say like a bullfrog being squeezed by a boa constrictor. That's what it says in the book. But armed with the encouraging words of her grandmother, Molly Lou confidently confronts the class bully at her new school. And it is really a great book. And the main theme of this book is to talk about it's okay to embrace the less than perfect parts of yourself. It's okay to be your most authentic self. And sometimes that's a very hard lesson for girls because girls want to strive for perfection. I know I certainly am a perfectionist and I struggle with that at times, but it's okay to be less than perfect. You're still great. Okay, this ding, 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 another Lana favorite. This one is called Mary Wears What She Wants by Keith Negley. It's a picture book. It's fiction, but it's actually based on a true story. Written in 2019. The reading level is 2.4 and the interest level is K through second. And this story says, once upon a time, but not that long ago, really, girls only wore dresses and only boys wore pants until one day a young girl named Mary had an idea. She would wear whatever she wanted, and she wanted to wear pants. This bold, original picture book encourages readers to think for themselves while gently challenging gender and societal norms. And it's, like I said, based on the true story of Mary Walker. So I love this story because I love the illustrations. They look like I want to just put this on my wall. I just love the style, and the book is very engaging. It's written in a narrative format, and it's very engaging story to read. And it really highlights her bravery. Like she didn't understand why girls weren't allowed to wear pants. It didn't make any sense to her. And so even though her parents and her friends and her teachers and everybody was like, no, please don't do that, she still did it. And that takes a lot of bravery. And we need brave girls in the world. All right. Our next story is Savitri, the Teaching Queen. It's a picture book. It's fiction, written in 2019. It's a third grade reading level, and interest is kind of K through 3, maybe second. And this is a really interesting book. So I'll tell you about the book in a second. But first, you can see at the bottom, there's multiple in this series. We have Frida Kahlo, Junkie, and Isadora, the Dancing Queen. And there's even more than this, and it's called Queen Girls Publications. And we have all of these books in the library system, but this is a independent publishing company right here in Charlotte. And so all the authors are different, but they all have the same illustrators, so they're part of the same series. But they take powerful women that have made history, and they turn them into like a fairy tale character in kind of a narrative format. And they're beautiful and they're really great. And we even had, I believe it was Junko, the author of Junko, came to the Hickory Grove branch a few years ago for Women's History Month and did a reading with the kids, and we had a great time doing that. So this particular book with Savitri, the Teaching Queen, it is talking about a time when girls were not allowed to attend school, and Savitri Fool, who the book is about, with the help of her friends, worked hard to pin the first school for girls. They were able to mobilize the entire community and make their dream come true. And through books, she taught students the power of learning. And as I said earlier, Queen Girls is a collection of stories of real women turned into fairy tales based on things that happen in history. Their mission is to inspire young girls and boys to dream big. So the website is down there below, Queen Girls Publications, if you're interested in learning more about them. They do a lot of cool things around town. All right, Amazing Grace. Now this is one of my son's favorite stories, and it's actually, we just discovered it when I was preparing for this program because he's in third grade and they just read Peter Pan, and they talk about Peter Pan in this book. And so I got it for him and he loves it. So it's a picture book, it's fiction, it's a little bit older, 1991. 3.5 reading level, and interest level is K through 3. So in this story, there is Grace. She loves stories, whether they're from books, movies, or the kind her grandmother tells her. And when her school decides to perform Peter Pan as their school play, Grace longs to play the lead, but her classmates point out that Peter was a boy, and also he wasn't Black. With the support of her family, Grace learns that she can be anything she wants to be, and the results are amazing. It has watercolor paintings and illustrations, and it does a really good job of expressing how Grace is feeling with her big imagination that she brings into the role of Peter Pan. So it's a great book for boys and girls and very empowering. All right, so now we're bumping it up to the chapter books a little bit. This one is called The Princess in Black. It's super popular at all the libraries right now, written by Shannon Hale and Dean Hale. It is a series, so if your daughter likes it, then of course they can get all the rest of them. That's always nice when they find a series that they like and they want to read all of them. This book was the series was started in 2014. The reading level is 3.2 and the interest level is first through second. So this story, Princess Magnolia is having hot chocolate and scones with Duchess Wigtower when it's the monster alarm. A big blue monster is threatening the goats. Stopping monsters is no job for dainty Princess Magnolia. But luckily, Princess Magnolia has a secret. She is also the Princess in Black, and stopping monsters is the perfect job for her. Can the princess sneak away, transform her alter ego, and defeat the monster before the nosy Duchess discovers her secret? This, like I said, is just the first in a series, and the series really talks, especially in the later books, about how to combine both sides of yourselves. Sometimes we have the person that we show others, and then we have our internal self. And they kind of touch on this in this series. And I think that's a great thing to be talking about, how to be your most authentic self. You don't have to hide your most authentic self away. So let's see. Next is Grace for President by Kelly DiPuccio. It's a picture book. It is a fictional book. It's written in 2008. It's a little bit higher reading level, 4.6, and the interest level is first through third. So this one is when Grace Campbell's teacher reveals that the United States has never had a female president. Grace decides to be the first female president, and she immediately starts off her political career as a candidate in the school's mock election. But soon she realizes that she has entered a tough race. Her popular opponent claims to be the best man for the job and seems to have captured all the male votes in the school, while Grace concentrates on being the best person. In this very timely story, the author not only gives readers a fun introduction to the American electoral system, but also teaches kids the value of hard work, courage, and independent thought. And independent thought and courage is a theme in almost all of the books that we're talking about today. All right, our next story is Isabella, Girl in Charge. And you can see at the top there, it says, just how big can a little girl dream? It's very similar in content to Grace for President. It's a picture book, it's fiction, written in 2016. It's a lower reading level, 1.7, and the same interest level of K through 2. Isabella is up early and ready to go, but her parents say it's not time to leave yet. So she tries to command her parents to leave earlier by imagining herself as various political leaders. And it also includes a timeline in the back of the book of women in United States politics. So all throughout the book, she wants to do different things. And so she always says, let's put it to a vote. And of course, she almost always loses because it's 2-1, her parents against her and what she wants to do. So it's very funny, but it takes you through all the different positions that she wants to hold in office to make a difference. All right, here's another one of my favorites. Uh-oh, my dog. Give me 1 minute. Come here, Frankie. I knew that was gonna happen at least once. Whenever he sees a dog go by, he has to bark. All right, buddy. All right, so this is a picture book. It's nonfiction, written in 2019, a 3rd grade reading level, and the interest level is 2nd through 4th. And the person here is Greta Thunberg, who you may have heard of. And it's an awesome story. It's written by Jeanette Winter. And it talks about in the story how when Greta was 15 years old, she was in class and one of her teachers explained to the class that the climate is changing. The earth is getting warmer, the polar ice caps are melting, and life on earth is going to be threatened eventually. And she was very devastated, and she wanted to know, what can I do? I'm just a kid, what can I do? And so the book really goes through her decision to go on strike. She skipped school every Friday to sit outside of the Swedish Parliament building with a sign that read "School Strike for Climate." And she did that for a very long time. And of course, now we know that she has become a worldwide figure for climate change. She's spoke to audiences at the United Nations, climate conferences, World Economic Forums. She's done it all. She's an extremely powerful young female voice to inspire your young ones. All right. This is a really good one. It's a graphic novel, our first graphic novel, but I don't think it's our last. I think we have at least one more. It's great for those readers who might be a little bit more reluctant for reading because it's very picture-based. It's nonfiction and it's a memoir. So we have a growing collection of graphic novels for juveniles in our library system that are growing in the nonfiction category for graphic novels. And it was written in 2014. And 2.7 reading level, and the interest level is 2nd through 4th, but I've definitely known kids younger and older that also enjoyed it. I would just say that's the core there of the interest level. And so in this story, it's the memoir of CeCe Bell, and it talks about how she lost her hearing at a very young age, and everything that happened once she got her hearing aid, and it's her phonic ear. I think is technically it's something different than a hearing aid. It's a device that she wears, and it allows you to hear from across the room. It's a very powerful, and how she describes it, awkward hearing device. And the phonic ear gives CeCe the ability to hear, including some things she wasn't intended to hear. And it also isolates her from her classmates, and she really just wants to fit in and find a friend. That's what she wants more than anything. Someone who doesn't care about the hearing aid, they just want to be her friend because they care about who she is. And after some trouble, she's finally able to harness the power of the phonic ear and become El Defo, listener for all. And so she really imagines herself as a superhero, and she declares a place for herself in the world, and finally finds the friend that she has longed for. And this book is really kind of sad, and it's very serious, but it's also really funny. There's a lot of funny parts where she's like hearing teachers go to the bathroom with her phonic ear, and she's like giggling to herself. So this book has a lot to offer your young daughter. This is another one of my favorites. It's called Luna and Me, written by Jenny Sue Kostecki-Shaw. It's a picture book. It's a nonfiction biography written in 2015. The reading level is 3.5 and the interest level is 2nd through 4th. And it's the true story of a girl who lived in a tree to save a forest. So it is based on a true story. It's a biography, and it's a redwood tree. And it was one of the largest and tallest trees, but also one of the oldest. And there was a little girl named Julia, and they called her Butterfly. And when she was exploring the forest, she wandered into a grove of very old trees. And she noticed that this one tree had a lot of broken branches and a big blue X on the side. And so she knew that meant that it was going to be chopped down, and she couldn't stand the thoughts of that. So she decided to climb the tree, and she knew that a tree would not be cut down if she was living inside it. And she ended up staying there for over 2 years with the support of her community. They would send her up food and all kinds of different things. And that was really a very inspiring, true story, kind of hard to believe. And she never came down until finally the tree that she named Luna was deemed safe. And the tree is still alive today to tell the tale, which is so awesome. All right. Our next book is part of the She Persisted series. It's a nonfiction biography series. This particular book came out in 2021, but I believe the series started in 2020. And it is based on the picture book that came from Chelsea Clinton and Alexandra Boyger. So it says, join the Per Sisterhood, a new chapter book series based on She Persisted by Chelsea Clinton and Alexandra Boyger. And this particular book talks about Harriet Tubman and how she rose up to become one of the most successful, determined, and well-known conductors of the Underground Railroad. With her family's love planted firmly in her heart, Harriet looked to the North Star for guidance, and its light helped guide her way out of slavery. Her courage made it possible for her to help others reach freedom too. So this book is a nonfiction biography, but it's written in a narrative format of her life. So it's very engaging with young readers. It's a chapter book, but it's a very early chapter book on a 3rd grade reading level. So it's really great. All right. The next one is Gloria's Voice, the story of Gloria Steinem, feminist, activist, and leader by Ora Lewis. It's a picture book. It's nonfiction biography written in 2018. Even though it's a picture book, it's one of those longer picture books that have a lot of text. So it's actually a 4.2 reading level. And the interest level for this one, I would say, is 4 through 7. And in this story, one of the best things about this book, you can kind of tell in the picture here, but if you see it in person, you can really, the colors really pop. They are just absolutely gorgeous, and they're all watercolors. And it's the biography of Gloria Steinem, and it talks about how she was one of the leaders of the women's liberation movement. And the story follows her from childhood to her political awakening and then beyond. And it talks about all of her motivations and beliefs. And it just does a really good job of introducing young people to a feminist activist in our world. All right, let's see. This one is Margie Kelly Breaks the Dress Code. It's a chapter book for slightly older kids. It's fiction, written in 2021, so it's new. The reading level is 5th grade, and the interest level is 4 through 6. So what happens in this book is that it's their first day of middle school, and Margie is really excited to go to school, but when she gets there, she's almost immediately sent back home for a dress code violation because her skirt is like slightly too short. And it's one of those things where it's based on your fingertips, but of course it's not very equal because it depends on the length of your arms. And so some people that short skirt would have been okay, and some people it wouldn't. And she starts to notice a lot of blatant sexism and decides to protest the school's gender inequality and the rules that surround that. And so following the footsteps of her activist mother, she was inspired by her mother in the story, who died before she was 2. She actually organizes a protest march to change the dress code. So it's another one of those books where a young girl saw that something was unequal and unfair and biased, and she decided to do something about it. And I really like this book as well because the author of this book is actually a teacher. She was a middle school teacher for many years and is currently a vice principal at an elementary school. So she knows all about it, I'm sure. All the dress code woes. All right, our next graphic novel is a nonfiction biography called Becoming RBG, Ruth Bader Ginsburg's Journey to Justice, and it's written by Debbie Levy. It was written in 2019. It's a higher reading level, 6.2, and the interest level is 5 through 6. And again, it might be slightly lower or higher depending on the student, but that's kind of the core group that it really would appeal to. And then I'm sure a lot of you already know everything about RBG, but she is a very modern, recent feminist hero in the world. She's a leader in the fight for equal treatment of girls and women in society and in the workplace. And she blazed trails to peaks of the male-centric worlds of education and law where women have rarely risen before. So she's been a very, very powerful woman. And she's one of the things that she said is that true and lasting change in society and law is accomplished slowly, one step at a time. And this is a really great lesson to talk with your girls about. Like, you know, incremental change is still change. And if you're always fighting for change, you might have to be patient, it might be slow, but you'll get there. And that's a really powerful lesson. All right, another one of my favorites. I think this might be my last favorite of the day. Anne of Green Gables. I read Anne of Green Gables when I was a kid. I read it again as an adult. I love Anne of Green Gables. And I think it's the oldest book on our list, 1908. And I think that it really speaks for how timeless it is, that it has been recreated over and over a book. There's graphic novels, there's picture books, all featuring the character. And so I included here the information for the original book, which is the chapter book, a little bit older reading level, 7.3, but the interest level is really 3rd through 8th. And even that is ridiculous because I, as an adult, love it as well. So all ages really can enjoy this, and it's a series. So you can continue following Anne. And so this is when Matthew and Marilla Cuthbert decide to adopt an orphan who can help manage their family farm. They have no idea what delightful trouble awaits them. With flame red hair and an unstoppable imagination, 11-year-old Anne Shirley takes Green Gables by storm. So this is a really wonderful book because Anne, just like all the other girls and all the other books that we talked about, she notices when things are unfair and she speaks up for those situations. She speaks up for herself. And what's really powerful about Anne of Green Gables is I feel like she does a really good job of empowering the other girls in the school to do the same. So that is Anne of Green Gables. And our last book today is Hidden Figures. This is the young readers edition of an adult book that's nonfiction. It was written in 2016. It's an 8th grade reading level, and the interest level is 6th through 9th. So I know they did this as a 7th grade book project at one school, probably more than one school, but I was working at Hickory Grove in the time, and I remember they all wanted to come in and get this book. So this is about the African-American female mathematicians at NASA who helped achieve some of the greatest moments in our space program. And it talks about before John Glenn orbited the Earth or Neil Armstrong walked on the moon, there was this group of dedicated female mathematicians known as human computers, and they used pencils, slide rules, and adding machines to calculate the numbers that would launch rockets and astronauts into space. So we hear about all these men like John Glenn and Neil Armstrong, but we rarely hear the names of these women who really made all of that stuff possible. Right, and so that is the end of my books. I wanted to take one moment to share with you, adult girls need empowerment too. And as a librarian and a leader with Girls Rock Charlotte, I actually do a feminist book club through the library, and it's for ages 18 plus. We meet the 3rd Wednesday of each month at 7:30 p.m. These are a few of the books that we've done before in addition to this month's book, which is Tomorrow's Bread. And we usually meet virtually, but we are soon going to start meeting in person once every few months at the Rock on 22nd headquarters, which is located in Noda. So if any of you are interested in hanging out with me more and reading awesome feminist literature, it's not all feminist literature, really. The only stipulation is it has to be written by a woman. And we want to know how the perspective of a woman writing it impacts how the story was told. And that's really the structure for each of our sessions.